The depressing lights of my office became dim as I packed my desk drawer for the last time. 6 years of threat assessments, vulnerability patches, and late-night security audits reduced to a cardboard box and a smug dismissal. The irony wasn't lost on me, getting fired from Tiger Software Solutions on a Tuesday, because I distinctly remember my first day in this firm was also a Tuesday. Now don't ask me why it was, TA Monday. That would be a story for another day. Marcus Thornfield stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me clear out my cubicle with the satisfaction of a man who just solved a complex equation. His expensive suit couldn't hide the fact that he'd only been our Chief Information Security Officer for 8 months. Fresh MBA from Wharton, even fresher arrogance from never having worked a real cybersecurity crisis. Everything about Marcus screamed consultant turned permanent hire. The way he clutched his tablet during meetings, referencing slides instead of actual system knowledge. The way he nodded along when senior developers discussed code vulnerabilities, then immediately pivoted to budget optimization. The way he scheduled strategic alignment sessions instead of addressing the 17 critical security warnings I'd flagged in my last quarterly report. His corner office still smelled like fresh paint and new leather furniture, a stark contrast to my 6-year-old desk chair and the coffee stains that had become part of my workspace's character. He'd replaced the previous CISO's books on network security with business strategy guides and a prominently displayed copy of Automation Nation, the future of digital transformation. "Lara, this is just business," he said, not bothering to lower his voice. His Harvard Business School ring caught the overhead lighting as he gestured dismissively. "We've automated patching. Besides, you have no work ethic for this." His laugh echoed across the open office space, drawing curious glances from my former colleagues. The work ethic comment stung because it was so brazenly false. Everyone knew I was the first one in every morning, checking overnight security logs while they sipped their first coffee. Everyone knew I stayed late every Friday, manually reviewing weekend deployment schedules. Everyone knew I carried my work phone everywhere, responding to alerts within minutes regardless of the hour. Everyone except Marcus, apparently. I caught Rebecca from accounting watching from her cubicle, her expression a mix of sympathy and disbelief. Tom from software development had stopped typing entirely, his fingers frozen above his keyboard as he processed what he'd just witnessed. Even Janet from HR looked uncomfortable, shuffling papers at her desk while pretending not to hear. I nodded. Left without a word. The walk to the elevator felt like a funeral march. 37 steps past desks where I'd helped colleagues recover from virus infections, consulted on security protocols for new software releases, and explained why their simple workarounds could compromise our entire network. Each step reminded me of conversations where I'd translated technical threats into business language, only to have Marcus later present my recommendations as his own strategic insights. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd been Tiger Software's unofficial guardian angel for half a decade. Every night at 8 p.m. sharp, I manually reviewed automated patch deployments, cross-referencing them against a proprietary database I'd built containing every software quirk, hardware limitation, and compatibility issue our systems had encountered since 2019. Every weekend, I ran custom vulnerability scans using tools I'd personally configured, scripts that probed for zero-day exploits our standard security software couldn't detect. Every holiday, I monitored network traffic while everyone else celebrated, watching for the subtle patterns that indicated reconnaissance activity or lateral movement attempts. Marcus had attended exactly 3 of my monthly security briefings before concluding that everything could be automated. He dismissed my warnings about our aging email server infrastructure as legacy thinking and called my manual firewall monitoring inefficient resource allocation. During his first week, he'd actually asked why we needed human oversight when artificial intelligence could think faster than any individual employee. I'd tried explaining that AI excels at pattern recognition but struggles with context. That our legacy systems from 2018 spoke different protocols than our modern infrastructure. That automated patching worked beautifully until it encountered the 17 server configurations that required human judgment calls. He'd responded by scheduling a follow-up meeting that never happened. The automation he praised so highly? It had a blind spot the size of a freight train, specifically around our client-facing email servers that ran on modified open-source software from 3 different vendors. The kind of Frankenstein setup that required intimate knowledge of each component's vulnerabilities and exactly how they interacted with each other. 3 days after my termination, I received an email from HR requesting my final security clearance documentation. Standard procedure, though unusually late, most companies handle this during the exit interview. They needed my access credentials formally revoked, my system permissions documented, and my personal security protocols transferred to my replacement. There was no replacement. I'd learned this from Carol in payroll, who mentioned during a brief phone call about my final paycheck that no new security positions had been posted. Marcus had convinced upper management that artificial intelligence and automated systems could handle everything I used to do. He presented a compelling 40-slide PowerPoint about cost efficiency and technological advancement, complete with charts showing potential savings of $127,000 annually by eliminating my position. What he hadn't presented was a comprehensive understanding of Tiger Software's legacy infrastructure, or any acknowledgement that our systems included components from acquisitions, mergers, and organic growth spanning 8 years. Each layer had its own security requirements, each vendor had different update schedules, and each integration point represented a potential vulnerability that required human analysis to properly secure. But PowerPoint presentations don't include footnotes about complexity. I spent Wednesday afternoon meticulously compiling my handover documentation, treating it like the most important deliverable of my career. Every access code earned through years of security clearance upgrades. Every monitoring protocol developed through trial and error during actual security incidents. Every manual override I'd created when automated systems failed during critical moments. My documentation included detailed explanations of the 2021 attempted breach that I'd stopped by manually reviewing email headers at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. The 2022 malware incident that our automated systems missed because it was embedded in a PDF attachment using encryption techniques our scanners hadn't seen before. The 2023 distributed denial-of-service attack that I'd mitigated by manually rerouting traffic through backup servers while our automated failover protocols struggled to adapt. Each incident report included timestamps, evidence logs, and step-by-step remediation procedures. Each manual intervention included the business justification for why automation alone was insufficient. Each recommendation included risk assessments quantified in potential financial impact. Then I submitted everything through proper channels, following Tiger Software's information security protocols to the letter. The email went to Marcus, copied to Director of Operations Sarah Mitchell and CEO James Montgomery. I attached 67 pages of security documentation, including detailed network diagrams, access control matrices, and a particularly important section titled Critical Manual Interventions Required for Legacy System Protection. Page 43 contained a subsection about our outdated email server's vulnerability to sophisticated phishing attacks, specifically targeting the authentication bypass I'd discovered in 2020. Page 51 detailed the workaround I developed for our firewall's inability to detect certain types of encrypted malware that used legitimate certificates to mask malicious payloads. Page 58 explained how our automated patching system couldn't update 3 specific server clusters without manual oversight, because the update process required temporary shutdowns that had to be coordinated with active client sessions. I made sure to highlight these sections in bright yellow, adding red text boxes with warnings like critical security gap and requires immediate manual implementation. I also included appendices with contact information for our security vendors, escalation procedures for various types of incidents, and detailed instructions for accessing the monitoring dashboards that I'd customized over the years. Everything someone would need to maintain our security posture without missing any of the subtle but crucial details that kept our systems safe. Marcus responded within an hour, his reply brief and dismissive, "Thanks for the documentation. Won't be necessary. Everything's automated now." No acknowledgement of the highlighted sections. No questions about the critical vulnerabilities. No request for clarification on any of the technical procedures. Just a confident assertion that human knowledge was obsolete. I immediately forwarded his response to HR for my records, along with a red receipt confirmation showing that he'd accessed the document attachment. I also saved screenshots of the email timestamp and recipient list, creating a digital paper trail that would be admissible as evidence if questions arose later about due diligence and knowledge transfer. Friday came and went. No one contacted me about transitional training. No one asked questions about the highlighted sections. No one requested access to my monitoring dashboards or custom security scripts. Marcus had made his position crystal clear: my knowledge was redundant, my warnings were paranoia, and my methods were obsolete relics of a pre-automation era. I spent the weekend updating my LinkedIn profile and researching cybersecurity positions at other companies. The job market was surprisingly robust. Apparently, businesses still valued human expertise in security matters. Several recruiters reached out after I posted about being available, and I had 3 promising phone interviews scheduled for the following week. Monday morning, I deleted Tiger Software Solutions from my phone contacts and started job hunting in earnest. I also disabled my remote access to their systems and deleted the personal monitoring scripts I'd installed on my home computer. If they wanted full automation, they could have it. Monday afternoon, I noticed unusual traffic patterns on some cybersecurity forums I frequented. Several users were discussing reconnaissance activities targeting mid-sized software companies, specifically those with legacy email infrastructure. One thread mentioned techniques for exploiting authentication bypasses in modified open-source email servers. The same vulnerabilities I'd highlighted on page 43 of my documentation. I considered reaching out to warn someone at Tiger Software, but decided against it. Marcus had been explicit about not needing my expertise. Besides, their automated systems were state-of-the-art, according to his presentation. Surely they would detect any suspicious activity. Tuesday morning brought job interviews and coffee meetings with potential employers. Tuesday afternoon brought resume revisions and portfolio updates. Tuesday evening brought a bottle of wine and the satisfaction of knowing I'd left Tiger Software in the best possible hands, their own automated, artificial intelligence-powered, completely infallible security systems. Tuesday night at 11 p.m., someone began probing Tiger Software's email servers. Lara? Sarah Mitchell's voice was tight, controlled. We need to talk. I don't work there anymore, Sarah. It's about the security breach. I set down my coffee. What security breach? Someone accessed our client database. Downloaded everything. Customer information, financial records, proprietary software codes. They're demanding $2 million in Bitcoin, or they'll release everything publicly. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. When did this happen? Last night. He's not handling it well. Through my apartment window, I could see Tiger Software's building in the distance. 12 floors of glass and steel, housing 300 employees and 5 years of my professional life. From the 42nd floor, you could see the whole city. Sarah, did anyone review the documentation I submitted? What documentation? The 67 pages of security protocols I sent to Marcus and copied to you and James. The ones that detailed manual interventions required for legacy system protection. The pause told me everything. Lara, we never received any documentation. I pulled up my sent folder on my personal laptop, the one I'd used to back up all my Tiger Software correspondence. The email was there, timestamp clearly showing 3:40 p.m. on the Wednesday after my termination. Marcus Thornfield, Sarah Mitchell, and James Montgomery all listed as recipients. Read receipts showing that Marcus had opened the attachment at 4:30 p.m. the same day. I'm forwarding it to you right now, Sarah. Check your email in 30 seconds. I could hear typing on her end, then a sharp intake of breath as she presumably saw the subject line, urgent, critical security handover, manual interventions required. Lara, this document is huge. There are warnings everywhere. Red text boxes about critical security gaps. Page 43 specifically details the vulnerability that was exploited last night. Page 58 explains the manual monitoring protocol that would have detected the intrusion within minutes instead of hours. More typing. A longer pause. Then, Jesus Christ. This email was sent to Marcus a week ago. He never. Lara, can you hold on a minute? I heard muffled conversation in the background, Sarah's voice becoming increasingly sharp as she presumably confronted someone about ignored communications. Then she was back. Lara, would you be willing to come in? We need someone who understands our systems. Marcus is in full panic mode, James is furious, and we have FBI cybercrime investigators arriving in 2 hours. I thought my role was redundant. Another pause, this one heavy with the weight of corporate decision-making being rapidly reconsidered. Please. We'll discuss terms when you get here, but right now we need your expertise. The attackers left detailed information about exactly which vulnerabilities they exploited. It's like they had inside knowledge of our security gaps. They didn't have inside knowledge, Sarah. They had publicly available information about common vulnerabilities in the exact server configurations we use. The same vulnerabilities I highlighted in bright yellow text and marked as critical intervention points. Please, Lara. I arrived at Tiger Software at 9:30 a.m., wearing my best charcoal gray suit, the one I'd bought for executive presentations but never had occasion to use. I carried a leather portfolio containing printed copies of every email I'd sent regarding system vulnerabilities over the past year, organized chronologically and cross-referenced with follow-up actions that were either ignored or dismissed. Documentation that would make any forensic accountant weep with joy. The security guard, Dennis, waved me through with a sympathetic nod and something approaching relief in his expression. Word travels fast in a building this size, especially when federal investigators are setting up command centers in conference rooms and senior executives are having heated conversations behind closed doors. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt longer than usual, giving me time to appreciate the irony of returning as a consultant to fix problems I'd warned about as an employee. The soft jazz playing in the elevator seemed inappropriately cheerful for a company facing potential bankruptcy from a preventable security breach. Marcus was pacing in the conference room when I walked in, phone pressed to his ear, face red with frustration and what looked like genuine fear. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his Harvard ring catching the morning light as he gestured frantically. Sarah sat at the head of the mahogany table, looking like she hadn't slept, surrounded by printouts and laptop screens showing network diagnostics. James Montgomery stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city with his hands clasped behind his back in the pose of a general surveying a battlefield. 2 FBI agents sat quietly in the corner, taking notes and occasionally conferring in whispers. Their presence transformed the familiar conference room into something that felt more like an interrogation chamber. Don't care what it costs, just get our systems back online and find out how this happened. Marcus snapped into his phone before noticing my entrance. His expression shifted from anger to something approaching panic, then to a desperate attempt at professional composure. Like a poker player who'd just realized his bluff had been called and all his chips were on the table. Lara. Thank God you're here. Marcus. I sat down across from him, opened my portfolio, and placed the printed documentation on the table. I see you received my handover materials. About that. Which part didn't you understand? The section about manual email server monitoring, or the part about legacy firewall vulnerabilities? James turned from the window. Marcus, what is she talking about? I can explain. The explanation is simple. I slid the documentation across the table. I submitted a comprehensive security handover that detailed every manual intervention required to maintain system integrity. Page 58 specifically outlined the vulnerability that was exploited last night. Sarah leaned forward. You knew this would happen? I knew it could happen. That's why I documented it. Marcus's face had gone pale. Lara, you have to understand, we were streamlining operations. You were eliminating redundancy. I opened to page 58, pointing to the highlighted section. This redundancy. The manual check I performed every night at 8 p.m. for 5 years. The one that would have caught the intrusion before it reached our client database. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. James Montgomery moved to the table, leaning over Sarah's shoulder to read the documentation. His face darkened as he scanned the highlighted sections. Marcus, did you review this documentation before dismissing Lara's position? Sir, the automation systems were supposed to answer the question. Marcus looked at me, then at Sarah, then back at James. I didn't think it was necessary. The new systems were state-of-the-art. But not compatible with our legacy infrastructure, I added quietly. As detailed on page 43. James straightened, his CEO mask slipping to reveal something colder underneath. Marcus, step outside. Now. Sir, if I could just explain. Outside. Marcus left, closing the door behind him with the soft click of a man walking toward his professional execution. James sat down across from me. Lara, what do we need to do? The damage is done. The hackers have our data. But I can prevent future breaches by reinstating the manual monitoring protocols that were eliminated when my position was terminated. Consider your position reinstated. At my previous salary, plus the 20% increase I was denied last year, plus consultation fees for today's emergency response. Sarah almost smiled. Done. And Marcus? James looked toward the door where Marcus was undoubtedly sweating through his expensive suit. Marcus is no longer our concern. I spent the next 4 hours implementing emergency security protocols, contacting federal cybersecurity agencies, and coordinating with our legal team. By 2 p.m., we'd contained the immediate damage and begun the long process of system recovery. Marcus never returned to the conference room. At 4:30 p.m., building security escorted him to his office to collect personal items under supervision. His access credentials were revoked, his company laptop confiscated, and his keycard deactivated. The same procedure I'd undergone 6 days earlier, but without the smugness. I watched from my restored cubicle as he walked past, cardboard box in hand, avoiding eye contact with everyone who'd witnessed his morning presentation about automated security being superior to human oversight. Dennis the security guard held the elevator door for him. Professional courtesy, even in humiliation. The next morning, I arrived at 7 a.m. to find my desk equipped with a new computer, upgraded security clearances, and a welcome back email from HR. My official title was now Senior Security Analyst, with a direct reporting line to James Montgomery and authority to override any automated system I deemed insufficient. Marcus's replacement started the following Monday, a seasoned professional who asked detailed questions about my manual monitoring protocols and requested written explanations for every highlighted section in my documentation. Sarah stopped by my desk on Tuesday afternoon with coffee and something approaching an apology. "We should have listened," she said. "You should have read your email." Point taken. The ransomware attack cost Tiger Software Solutions approximately $800,000 in recovery fees, legal expenses, and client retention efforts. Marcus's severance package was terminated due to gross negligence, and his glowing LinkedIn recommendations mysteriously disappeared. The automation systems he'd championed were supplemented with manual oversight protocols, specifically, the ones I'd detailed in my 67-page documentation that he'd dismissed as unnecessary. Some people learn from their mistakes. Others become case studies for the people who don't make them in the first place. Did you ever have a boss who confused arrogance with expertise? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how corporate karma caught up with them. Subscribe for more tales from the front lines of workplace justice. Trust me, the best revenge is professional competence.